In a tremendous show of moral character and leadership, President Joe Biden, in the waning days of his administration, has commuted the federal death sentences for 37 out of 40 men sitting primarily in Terre Haute, Indiana Federal Penitentiary who were awaiting their death. They will now have life imprisonment without possibility of parole, but will not be given the death penalty. And there's nothing that Donald Trump can do about it. It's one way that Joe Biden is ensuring that there's a semblance of our democracy left before Donald Trump takes office. I'm Michael Popok. You're on Legal AF, the YouTube channel. Take a moment, help us continue to build this channel to preserve democracy right here on the Midas Touch Network. Let's talk about what happened, what didn't happen, what commutation means, and why Joe Biden decided to do it. It is exactly, if you can recall, a hot take, a video that I did just a couple of weeks ago. I said this is one way that Joe Biden can distinguish himself in the eyes of the American people from the incoming presidency of Donald Trump would be to show mercy to these people on death row, empty out death row. And he's done it. When Donald Trump arrives, there's just going to be 3 people there. And those 3 that Joe Biden decided he's not going to commute their sentences are the worst of the worst, the most heinous of the most heinous. It's Dylan Roof, who killed 9 black worshipers at the Mother Emanuel Church in South Carolina. It is Robert Bowers, who is the person who perpetrated the worst act of anti-Semitism on our American soil, killing 11 Jews that were gathered to worship in Pittsburgh at a combined congregation. We call that the Tree of Life mass shooting. And then we've got one of the Tarasaronoff brothers, who the surviving brother, who was responsible for the Boston Marathon bombing. They're not going anywhere. They remain on death row. And I assure them and the people who were the victims of them that Donald Trump will waste no time to restart the mechanism of death and the death penalty and have these 3 be put to death. There's a 4th person that could join them under the Biden administration. They're prosecuting the person who perpetrated the Buffalo supermarket shooting, which also killed a lot of people in 2022 and people of color in that supermarket shooting. They'll join. Luigi Mangione, frankly, may be one of the people that joins death row if the feds have their way. I did another hot take on this. The feds have jumped in front of the New York State prosecution by the Manhattan DA, had him arraigned first on federal charges, have him being retained in the federal detention center. I think they're going to get that case tried first, and theirs is a federal death penalty eligible crime. In fact, Donald Trump, just to put a fine point on this, Donald Trump's campaign rhetoric and even off of his reaction to the 37 people getting mercy that he can't do a thing about and being given life without possibility of parole and not death instead by Joe Biden. Donald Trump has said the first thing he's going to do, he's got a lot of firsts, but the first thing he's going to do with the Department of Justice and the FBI is to ensure that violent crime always try to receive the death penalty. I mean, there's limits on that. I'm not sure that the United States Supreme Court would agree that all levels of violent crime should receive the capital offense of the death penalty. We'll have to wait to see that another day. But Donald Trump's certainly going to try to test the limits of what he can put as a symmetrical or asymmetrical punishment on the other end of violent crime. So the death row will be repopulated by Donald Trump in his 4 years. It may well go up to 20 or 30 or 40 people in that amount of time. That takes a little bit to try a case. So, but I could easily see 20 more men, usually men, added to death row. But these 37, they owe Joe Biden their life. They'll spend the rest of their life in prison. Let's talk about the commutation power. It comes from the power of the pardon, the power of the clemency, which is granted to the executive branch under Article 2. It can't be disturbed. You can't sue over it. The Supreme Court can't overturn it. Congress or another incoming president can't change it. They can't reimpose sentence. They can't try them again. That would be double jeopardy. So that is an impenetrable power, a superpower of the presidency. It was reinforced, that superpower, that it can't be, there's no check or balance against it by the United States Supreme Court in their immunity decision in favor of Donald Trump in July, where they took on the issue of the pardon during oral argument in other places. It is a core constitutional function for which the person who occupies the office of the presidency enjoys absolute immunity from any kind of prosecution or interference, period. So using that power, the president can do one of several things. In a pardon situation, here's a little teachable moment here on Legal AF, little Legal AF law school. A pardon, which is the ultimate power, is that the person is freed from jail and their conviction taken off the books, and they are given a full and complete pardon for whatever crimes that they committed. If they were a felon, they're a felon no longer. That's pardon power. That's the ultimate. Then you move down from there to clemency, or things related to clemency can shorten the sentence, can change the sentence, can let the person out immediately, but does nothing. Usually clemency does nothing to the actual underlying conviction. That stays on the books as an indelible stain on the person's name, reputation, and life. Then within the clemency power is this power to commute, the commutation of sentences, meaning shortening or changing sentences. It can reduce a number of years. Let's say a person was supposed to serve 25 years. They've served 8 already. There's another 17 to go. Joe Biden can say, serve 2 more years, or the 8 you've already served is enough. You're out. Commutation of sentence. But your conviction stays on the books, but you can be let out the door. Joe Biden did that recently when he commuted the sentences of 1,400 people. There's about 37 pardons in there. That's the full ride, right? That's the golden parachute. And then you've got this other group of shortened sentences. And then ultimately, the commutation of sentences can take the form of what just happened with the 37 out of 40 men, all men, who received a commutation of their sentence, converting it, if you will, from death penalty, which would have happened under Donald Trump. There is no doubt in anybody's mind. That's how Joe Biden is protecting democracy. Within the first 6 months, first year, I'm sure all 37 of those men who just got mercy granted to them by Joe Biden would be killed, would be executed by the Department of Justice and Federal Bureau of Prisons by Donald Trump. I mean, there's been a moratorium on federal executions since 2021 because of Joe Biden and ultimately Merrick Garland. And Merrick Garland doesn't normally seek the death penalty, but has on rare occasions. I mean, right now, the Buffalo shooter they're seeking the death penalty. And I think it is likely, I've done a separate hot take. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying it's likely that the feds are going to seek the death penalty. And if the Biden feds, Department of Justice, don't seek it against Luigi Mangione, you can be assured that the incoming Manhattan, Southern District, New York Attorney General in the form of U.S. Attorney in the form of Jay Clayton will do that because that's what Donald Trump wants. And so I think if he gets convicted, he'll end up on death row. But these 37 men, they would have certainly been killed in the first year of the Trump administration. He had killed over 16, clearing out death row upon his arrival. After there not having been an execution, a federal death penalty having been imposed in over 17 years, Donald Trump made quick work of that, quick dispatch of that. He would have done that with these people, and then Joe Biden knew that. It's the same sort of motivating factor for giving a pardon to your son, Hunter Biden, giving a pardon to 37 other people, commuting the sentences of 1,400, because an out-of-control, power mad, death penalty hungry president is coming in, along with all of his henchmen, to execute on that plan. And Joe Biden's not going to let that happen. I'm going to continue to cover all the ways that Joe Biden is distinguishing himself at the waning days of his administration on Popok Live on Tuesday night, Tuesday night, Christmas Eve night at 8 p.m. Tune in then. And we will cover it all on the commutation of all these sentences. So until my next cover, my next hot take, my next Popok Live, I'm Michael Popok, and I'm reporting. In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories at the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at @LegalAFMTN. That's @LegalAFMTN.